Welcome. You've joined us for a deep dive today. We're getting into the life and really the lasting influence of Eleanor Roosevelt.
That's right. We've looked at a lot of sources, and the goal here is to sort of cut through the noise.
Yeah, find the core insights, the things that really matter about her impact, and crucially, why it should matter to you listening now.
Exactly. Eleanor Roosevelt wasn't just, a first lady. She fundamentally changed what that role could be.
How so, initially? What was different?
Well, think about this. She held her own press conferences, focused specifically on social issues.
Wow, okay. That's pretty radical for the time.
Totally unheard of. It immediately set her apart, as an independent voice, not just an extension of the president.
Right, a force in her own right.
Precisely. And that's just one piece of the puzzle we want to unpack today. We're aiming for those real aha moments about her legacy for you.
Okay, so let's kick off maybe with her early life. It seems it wasn't straightforward. There was hardship there.
Definitely. Personal loss was a big part of her early story.
And it seems like navigating that, well, it laid some groundwork for who she became.
I think so. Our sources suggest those early losses cultivated this deep well of empathy in her.
Which is interesting because those kinds of challenges could easily lead someone down a different path. Despair, maybe?
Right, but for her, it seemed to ignite something else, a sense of purpose.
Right.
Her life really became what some sources call a living call to action.
A call to action, meaning?
Meaning she didn't just, talk about justice or human dignity. She lived it. She urged people, and still urges us, really to actively engage, to work for collective progress.
Not just admire from afar.
Exactly. And underpinning all that was this unwavering belief in people, in humanity's potential to rise above division, above despair.
That feels especially powerful given the time she lived through. World wars, the Depression.
Incredibly powerful. And you see it crystallized in her work on the Universal Declaration of Human Rights at the UN.
Oh, yeah, yes, the UDHR. That's huge.
Monumental. It wasn't just words on paper. It became, as the sources put it, a moral compass for nations worldwide.
A moral compass. But getting there, that must have been incredibly difficult. Post-war, so many different nations' ideologies.
Oh, absolutely. Forging consensus on something that fundamental, a massive undertaking. It really shows her skill in navigating incredibly complex politics.
And her own experiences must have played a role there. Her understanding of suffering.
Definitely. That deep understanding gained from her advocacy for, marginalized groups, people who were struggling.
Yeah.
It infused the whole process. It gave the principles weight.
So it wasn't just abstract diplomacy.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And this really highlights her knack for bridging divides.
How do you mean?
Well, think about it. She's working on this international stage, early Cold War tensions brewing.
Right.
And at the same time, back home, she's championing civil rights in a deeply segregated America.
Two very different battlegrounds.
Exactly. And navigating both required this incredible empathy, this ability to listen, to find common ground, even with people holding, frankly, opposing views.
It really shows that leadership isn't just about authority, is it? It's about connection.
That's a great way to put it. Our sources point to her belief that true leadership requires both vulnerability and strength.
Vulnerability and strength, that's an interesting mix.
It is.
Yeah.
Think about her famous quote, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent."
Yes, I know that one.
It sounds simple, right? But it's profoundly about inner strength, about recognizing your own agency. That's maybe the foundation.
But it wasn't just about individual strength for her, was it? She knew change needed more.
Absolutely. She understood deeply that systemic change requires collective effort. It's not a solo act.
And how did she approach that collective effort?
Well, she had this, what we now call an intersectional approach to social justice.
Intersectional, meaning?
She saw the links between civil rights, women's rights, economic equality, education reform. She didn't see them as separate boxes.
Ah, okay. She saw how they were all connected.
Exactly, which was incredibly forward-thinking for her time, and it's frankly still so relevant for you today, looking at the interconnected challenges we face.
Yeah, that idea that you can't just fix one thing in isolation.
Precisely. Race, gender, economic status. She saw how these things weave together.
It's like she saw the whole web. And what's amazing is her influence didn't really fade when she left the White House.
No, it didn't. If anything, you could argue it actually grew.
How did that work without the official platform?
Well, she had her daily newspaper column, My Day. That was huge.
Right. She reached a lot of people directly that way.
Millions. And she traveled extensively, still meeting people, listening. Plus, she mentored younger leaders. She strategically used her profile.
So she kept her voice out there.
Absolutely. Her writings, her speeches, they continue to inspire people on everything from, personal empowerment to international diplomacy.
And we can still access that directly.
We can, through things like the Eleanor Roosevelt Papers Project and other digital archives.
Yeah.
It's all there for you to explore. Her insights are preserved.
That's incredible, a direct line to her thinking. And it's not just archives, right? Her legacy lives on in actual institutions.
Yes, definitely. Think of Eleanor Roosevelt College at UC San Diego. Its whole focus is on global citizenship.
Ah, okay. Carrying that torch.
Exactly. Or the various human rights awards given in her name every year. These aren't just memorials. They actively amplify her mission.
And presumably inspire current leaders.
That's the idea. It prompts a question for you listening, doesn't it? How do these efforts keep her moral clarity relevant for today's leaders facing today's issues?
And it's not just the big institutions either, is it? The sources mention grassroots efforts too.
Yes, countless smaller organizations, community groups, inspired by her example, tackling local challenges.
Which really speaks to her impact on a personal level. It's not just history, it's inspiration for action.
Right, and central to that is her idea of hope.
Hope, but not passive hope.
No, not at all. For her, hope was active. It required engagement, getting involved. It required perseverance, pushing through setbacks.
And faith that change is possible.
A fundamental faith in the possibility of change, yes.
And her own life sort of embodies that, doesn't it? The transformation she went through.
It really does. From describing herself as shy, insecure, to becoming this, fearless advocate for humanity.
That's quite a journey.
It shows that growth is possible
Right.
at any stage. Her resilience, her ability to learn from adversity, that's so key to her story.
Which feels incredibly relevant right now. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by everything going on.
Absolutely. Her life is kind of a counter-narrative to that overwhelm.
Yeah.
You can start where you are, you can grow, you can contribute.
So what's the takeaway for you listening today in practical terms?
Well, her focus on grassroots activism, community building, education,
Mm-hmm.
these are powerful tools right now.
Things people can actually do.
Exactly. Supporting marginalized voices, advocating for equitable policies, even just fostering dialogue and understanding. These are ways to carry her vision forward.
It seems to boil down to some core qualities she embodied. Courage, empathy.
Determination. That trifecta seems to be the foundation of her leadership.
Can you give examples of that trifecta in action?
Sure. Courage wasn't just talk. It was challenging segregation when it was deeply unpopular and even dangerous.
Right, taking real risks.
Empathy wasn't just feeling bad. It was traveling to see suffering firsthand, like in coal mines or impoverished areas, and letting that fuel her advocacy, like for the economic and social rights in the UDHR.
Connecting seeing with doing.
Precisely. And determination. Well, look at her persistence at the UN. Years of navigating complex, often frustrating diplomacy to get the UDHR done.
She didn't give up easily.
Not at all. And her approach was collaborative, solutions-oriented, which raises another point for you listeners.
Yes.
In our current era, with so much polarization, so much misinformation, how vital are those qualities? Courage, empathy, determination right now.
It feels like they're maybe more critical than ever. Cultivating them in ourselves seems like a way through.
Perhaps. And she became more than just a person, didn't she? She became a symbol.
What does that symbolism represent, do you think?
Well, it's partly her achievements, of course,
Yeah.
but it's also the values. Inclusivity, dialogue, action.
And maybe that ability to turn pain into purpose. Is that part of it?
I think that's hugely inspiring for people. It connects to something universal, that search for dignity, equality, belonging. Her values speak to those deep human aspirations.
So this isn't just a history lesson for you listening.
Not at all. Her life is really a challenge, an invitation, perhaps, to move beyond just watching things
You
happen.
get involved somehow.
Yes, whether it's through community organizing, policy advocacy, or simply promoting understanding in your own conversations. There are many ways.
And education was key for her too, right?
Absolutely. She saw education as fundamental for empowerment, for future generations especially.
And we have to acknowledge, the work she started, it's not finished.
Far from it. Many of the issues she fought for are still very much with us. Her legacy isn't just about celebrating the past, it's a call to continue the work.
So for you listening, the question becomes, how do you pick up that torch in your own way?
Exactly, in your own sphere of influence, however big or small.
When you look at it all, her life really is a kind of masterclass in making a difference.
It really is. It underscores the power of one individual, especially when action is rooted in courage, empathy, and determination.
And the legacy isn't static, it lives on through people she inspires.
It's dynamic. It continues through action.
Which brings us back to her own words, a fitting place to maybe start wrapping up. You gain strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you stop to look fear in the face.
Powerful words. So as you reflect on everything we've discussed about Eleanor Roosevelt, what part of her legacy really hits home for you?
Yeah, what resonates personally, and maybe, just maybe, what's one small thing, one practical step you could take, even today or this week?
To apply those values, justice, human dignity, right where you are.
We really do encourage you, if this has sparked your interest, to dig deeper. Check out the Eleanor Roosevelt Papers Project or other resources.
It's a great opportunity for, continued learning and engagement with her ideas. They still have so much to offer.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive.